dinner. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call it yet. Maybe a mini podcast, topical podcast. But today, Carla Courtney has been kind enough to come back, and she is going to share with us some of her summertime hospitality suggestions. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Bess. It's nice to be back. Thanks.
Well, she did a fabulous episode on the regular podcast for us and shared a menu and some of her stories. Today, she is going to talk specifically about hospitality in our neighborhoods with young guests. So the children of the neighborhood coming over and all the opportunities that affords to us to be hospitable. So,
right.
Tell us a little bit about your thoughts.
Okay. So some of these ideas that I'm launching on you today came as a result of speaking with one of our former NSA connections. We've been an NSA border family for 23 years, New St. Andrews. And in our first class, we had just a slew of students at our house all the time. So this last spring, I happened to be at one of the young men's house. His wife was hosting a baby shower. So when there's a baby shower going on, the guys are on the back deck watching the kids in the backyard, right? So I knew the dads who were back there, and I wanted to go back and say hi. And he and his wife are really doing a good job on their house. They've bought a house. He's a professional in this community, and they are remodeling, and they're entertaining while they do that. And their house is becoming a hub of activity within the church and within their neighborhood. And they've really got some things they're working on to try to make sure they keep it open and hospitable, even during some of these projects. Mm-hmm. And it just, he made the comment to me, and we've heard this before, especially from our Navy guys who were not Christians, when they went to the Naval Academy or when they went to college, and they became Christians either through local church outreaches, Navigators, Officer Christian Fellowship, and then we got them further on in our service with the Officer Christian Fellowship. But so many of them said, we never did this at home. I don't remember my parents ever having people over. In fact, I think I would have died of embarrassment if people had been there. And so many of them told Dale and I said, when I grow up, so to speak, when I get married, I want a wife that wants to do this.
Yeah.
Because I want to open my home.
They saw the importance of
Bible study,
that fellowship,
exactly,
and the sense of community.
Exactly. And so he shared that same thing. He said, you and Dale, you taught us to be hospitable. And the reason we liked being at your house was you made us feel welcome. We cooked, we partied, they studied, they sang, they watched movies, played game nights, and they loved being in homes where it was hospitable. He said, that's what we want to do. And we want to open it up to our Christian neighbors as well as our non-Christian neighbors. And we learned it from people who were hospitable. And so the talk just rotated around what they were doing currently in their backyard and how that was going to draw kids from the neighborhood. And he said, oh, yeah, it already is. And so we were just talking about some of the challenges that brings.
Yes.
And some of the things that maybe we as hospitable wives and mothers, particularly those of us who are blessed to be home all summer, we're going to see those kids in the neighborhood who are riding around and not doing much or not have much, or they meet up at the kids meet up at the park and say, hey, come shoot hoops at my house. Well, do we have ground rules for shooting hoops at our house? Do we have the right tools? Do we have the right equipment? What happens when somebody yells, I'm hungry?
Right. Right.
So, we kind of need to have a plan of action, just like we have a plan of action for having a family into our home for dinner. We have a menu. We have a schedule. We have a shopping list. We may need to be thinking those kinds of thoughts when we welcome children
right
into
So
our homes and yards.
it feels a little bit easier, but also you're ready for it and not taken off guard and surprised and maybe feel like this isn't something that can happen right now.
Right. And I think the most important thing is to make sure you're taking time with these decisions, but that you and your husband pray about it and you decide just how much time can we commit to something like that, to having children over. And then, of course, once you decide what you're going to do with that, you make a plan with your own husband, and even down to deciding what hours of the day. Are we going to let kids come play in the afternoon, keep the morning for chores and swim lessons or Bible school or whatever's going on? Or are we just going to keep it a little more freewheeling than that, drop in? At what time will you accept drop-ins?
Exactly.
Some kids get up pretty early,
Yes.
and because their folks are out the door to work and
with neighborhood kids, if there's lots of them, it could be here's a drop in, then later here's another drop in, then later here's another drop in. And so it really could disrupt your normal flow of your day, or maybe the one you have set for your children. Maybe they have chore times and other activities like you mentioned. So it is good to think through those things.
It is, because if you don't, it can't, the potential of adding stress to your day of unfinished tasks kind of drives some of us crazy. Me. It's like my checklist did not get done, but I did get this done and this done and this done. And in God's good grace and God's good timing, I needed to do those things because they happened.
Right.
But my list is still needing.
Right.
I still have good things to do on my list.
Well, and if there's clear parameters for neighborhood children, it's not as if there's a set expectation, then it's clear to them that they're welcome, but come at this time.
Yes.
Or this is the best time. Not you're never welcome, but it also may teach them manners in a way. It may teach them to be thoughtful of your schedule, thoughtful of what your requests are, because they're coming into your home to take, not advantage isn't the right word, but to take advantage of your kindness and your food and your whatever it is you're offering.
And they may not think of it as such, but we need to be prepared. So what are your thoughts? I mean, I think every family would be different depending on what the husband and wife came up with together. But what do you do? Do you set certain times of day or certain days, or what conclusion have you come? Well, our kids are all grown now and married, out of the house and having kids. So we're in the grandparent revolving door syndrome right now. We'll take them anytime we can get them, kind of thing.
Yes.
Which we love.
And your grandchildren are what ages again? They're pretty little.
6, and the youngest one's 20 months.
Oh,
so there's 7 of them in there, including a set of twins.
That's so fun.
So from 2 of our sons. So that's we're enjoying that stage. But when our kids were young, prior to moving to Moscow, we lived on a military base in Monterey, California, in Seaside, at the previous Fort Ord, which was converted to Navy housing. And so we had a wide variety of people in our neighborhood. So we had certain friends, and we just kind of laid down some parameters that these are outdoor friends, and we don't know them, and we don't know their parents real well yet. So we don't invite them inside to play, but we can play outside, or we can meet at the park. These are park friends. These are swim team friends. Chantel had a limited group of friends she liked to have over for slumber parties on occasions and things like that. But there were restricted areas, Chantel. You do not need to take the girls into your brother's bedroom. You've got your bedroom, you've got the TV room. We had 2.5 baths, so they never needed to use our bathroom, that kind of a thing. So just laying down some rules about where you can play or where you can be with your friends, and setting some of those rules down, I think is just really helpful. And you can explain those to your own children based on their frame. I mean, if you tell your you can go into better detail with your teenagers than you can with your 5-year-olds.
But you're slowly teaching them wisdom that they need in dealing with people out in the world.
Right.
Because not everyone is a Christian. Not everyone is raised with the same rules. And so you're protecting them from being exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to. Mm-hmm. So there's so much wisdom in that. And I love that idea of telling your children that there are outside friends. Did you allow those children to come in and use your restroom, or did they run home and go to the restroom?
Yeah. No, they could come in and use the restroom, but we didn't
head right back outside.
Yeah. They just head right back
outside.
They're not
going
come
into
in,
the kids'
get a drink.
bedrooms to play.
Right.
Yeah.
And if the weather got really bad, then it was probably time to go home. Mm-hmm. That kind of a thing. But could outdoor friends become indoor friends? Yes.
Once you became good friends with the parents and knew the family.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And just knowing who you're visiting with and who you're welcoming into your home and why and what is comfortable and what is not, and kind of living within those borders and some pretty tight restrictions, but that's how good friendships progress anyway. You start slow and you build strong and you build deeply. And that's how we got our daughter-in-law, Mia. So
started with a friendship.
It started with a friendship of parents. It actually started with a friendship between my son, Josh, and her brother, Nate, in Sunday school when they were 4. And they were friends. And so Mia's mom called me and said, my son, Nate, really likes your son, Josh, and likes playing with Josh. Maybe we should get together and meet so that we know a little more about the families. And so that just led to the parents all getting together, our families getting together, and we've stayed in touch over the years in the course of many years. And then, long story short, eventually Joel and Mia got married.
Yes.
That's somebody he'd known and grown up with all his life.
That's incredible.
But it started with, can we get together and arrange a play date for the brothers?
Yes. And if the brother approves, then that actually goes a pretty long way. We have one daughter and 4 sons, and that was kind of the joke. If the guy can make it past dad and 4 brothers, he might be pretty good. Yeah. Exactly. He might be a keeper.
Exactly. But those kind of things can happen, and sometimes you have friendships that it's just for that time.
Yes.
But as Christians, we just never know our purpose in crossing paths. Mm-hmm. And we need to always be open to the fact that we're an important part of their story. And we may not know that, and we may not understand that. It's like 23 years later, the gentleman tells me, I learned hospitality from you and your husband as a freshman at NSA.
And now they're doing the same thing.
And now they're doing the same thing. And 23 years later, I hear that we were an important part of that story.
Yes.
And so that's what we need to be planning for, is where are we going to be in that story, and how do we move that story forward, and to never underestimate the power of a kind word, a good basketball, and a jar of bubbles.
And a big smile on your face.
And a big smile on your face, and a plate of warm cookies.
That's
you may never get rid of them. They may stay.
Don't offer me warm hot chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, there's just nothing like it, is there? I tell you.
Those are my favorite. I think it's also important to recognize that hospitality doesn't mean you're becoming best friends. Or that there are different levels of friendship. Mm-hmm. There's different levels of acquaintance. And so inviting someone into your home doesn't mean I'm trying to become best friends with you.
Right.
Because we don't have the capacity to become best friends with every single person we meet at church or in the community, or even invite over to our home. And so that's really not the point. It is to be friendly.
Yes.
And to have fellowship with each other and encourage each other in our spiritual walk, or even encourage those who are not Christians. Like you were mentioning just the hospitality with the Navy. The men and women in the Navy who came and just saw for the first time what a Christian home looks like. It's just incredible and different. And maybe that draws them to Christ. So anyway, just recognizing the different levels is also important too. Recognizing you're doing this, the purpose behind what you're doing is not necessarily because you have to be best friends with the people you invite over.
It's our job to plant those seeds and water them well, and maybe even get to be there for the harvest. So
yes, and sometimes you do have a daughter-in-law at the end and really great friends.
I know, you get all these prizes.
Sometimes there's prizes involved.
Exactly.
You found the buried treasure.
Exactly. Well, I would agree. Mia's a treasure. All of my daughter-in-laws are treasures.
Yes. So. Oh, I feel the same way. I have 2 daughter-in-laws now and a son-in-law. And then 2 more future daughter-in-laws, I hope. I mean, at some point, they're not, God knows who they are. I don't know who they are yet. But
what's really funny is when you find out years later that you did know who they were.
I did know who the whole time.
But I'm so glad I didn't know at that time.
Sure.
What would have happened.
Sure.
And it's so funny.
That's great.
But it's just, those are just parts of the story too.
Yes.
So.
Well, you talked about bubbles and chocolate chip cookies and other things. Tell me a little bit more about a budget. How do you plan when you talk about consistent hospitality? Sometimes what pops in our head is, wow, that's expensive, or it can be expensive.
It sure can get to be that way. I remember a friend of ours, another Navy wife friend of ours, they had gone like to Sam's Club or Costco and stocked up for their big church camping trip. And they were in charge of buying a certain amount of food from collected funds, et cetera. And it was all there. And so her sons one day invited the neighbors in for pudding cups and fruit pouches and
like a dream
fruit
come
jerky.
true.
Just like raid the pantry and hand it out. And my friend was just like, no. And so, but there need to be ground rules. So you do need a budget, and you do need to know what your means are, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, I'll bake 3 dozen chocolate chip cookies a week. Well, maybe you have that funding and maybe you don't. Maybe there are other options you could pursue. Maybe there's ways to make a cheaper chocolate chip cookie, whatever it is. But just being able to have a ready answer for when somebody yells, I'm hungry. Because the first person that says, I'm hungry, they're all hungry or they're all thirsty. So what kind of ground rules do you want to set within your family of, an idea is to keep a Rubbermaid bin of pre-made snacks that you can have one snack bag out of there. It could be chips, it could be the airplane pretzels or peanuts, anything like that. Or you could make cookies or Rice Krispie treats, bag them up, put them in there. And when somebody yells, can I have a snack? You've got a bin ready to go, and it's a choose one type of bin.
Not rate it and everybody gets 5.
Well, or
10.
Just walk into the pantry and help yourself kind of a thing. So planning for things like that can make it easier for you to be a little hospitable, and you'll just have to work on that. There's only one fruit by the foot left and 3 people want it. Well, we may be playing rock, paper, scissors for that one. Or we may say, well, no, let's find something that there's 3 of, or diffuse the situation the best you can. And teach your own children to, you serve your guests, and I know you like fruit by the foot, and next time we buy those, I'll save you one.
Yes.
That kind of a thing. But teaching them to allow their friends to have first access to something like that. And, we fortunately have internet access to things like Play-Doh and bubble recipes that you can make your own bubbles instead of buying high-priced bubbles. But I do recommend getting a sturdy bubble machine. They're worth their weight in gold.
Would be amazing.
Absolutely. My daughter-in-law, Jackie, has one, and she puts it in her kitchen window, and it goes right out into the backyard. And that way, the kids aren't touching it. They're not picking it up and dropping it. They're not spilling bubbles everywhere. It's genius. And she just pops it up in the window. The bubbles go out, and they float way nice and high, and especially for little guys who can't handle blowing through the bubble wand yet. It's really nice.
And you want it high enough where it's not going straight in their eyeballs.
Exactly.
If it's low to the ground,
that.
they might stand there and just look at it. And
so something like that's fun. I mean, we've gone through plenty of bubble machines, and we finally bought an industrial strength bubble maker this year.
Where did you purchase it?
Dale found it on Amazon. He said it looks like it's #1 rated. You can use it on battery or on an electric cord, and
perfect.
And it's heavy enough that the kids can't really pick it up well. We had one of those cute little Walmart whale ones, and they loved it. But it got picked up and dropped so many times and cracked. There went the bubbles.
Right.
So it's nice to have an industrial strength one. We also like sidewalk chalk. And
sidewalk chalk is so great. It washes off with water or rain if you just left it there if a storm is coming.
Exactly.
And it's cheap.
It really is. It
lasts for a long time.
And it's entertaining. It's very entertaining. And a good Frisbee, some balls. Of course, with grandchildren, we have a lot of small riding toys that I've picked up at thrift stores. So we have those available. Depending on where you live in the summer, and here, it does get hot enough to go to the pool eventually. Some of us have yards with sprinklers. You got to keep your eye on the city water rules or restrictions. Sometimes different areas may have that. So make sure you're legal in using your sprinkler at 2:00 on a Wednesday afternoon. But that can be kind of fun too. And if you get a sprinkler that diffuses the water, it doesn't use a noticeable amount of water. Or you just put a time limit on it and say, okay, at 3:00, we're going to turn on the sprinkler and everybody's going to cool off for 20 minutes and then we're going to shut it down. So you can always put a time limit on something like that. Slip and slides are fun if you got a hill in your backyard that's gentle enough to do it. So all kinds of things are fun. And of course, some people, I know you have audience all over the United States listening to this. Some people are blessed enough to live where they've got in-ground pools in their homes in the South. Some people have above-ground pools that they set up for just the summer. And so just kind of establishing some rules of when your friends can come and play in the pool, and do they need to wash their feet before they get in, or what about that cut grass in the pool? Because grass can really clog up a filter system.
About going to the restroom when you're dripping wet.
Exactly. Which bathroom are you going to?
Which one do they dry off first? And
are you providing towels, or are they bringing their own? You know,
it's kind ahead of time if you give clear expectations.
Yes.
Not that you want to be real bossy and have a list of 100 rules, but
you know, if you
have clear expectations, it's good because then people show up knowing what to do.
Right. And even if a child comes over the first time and their mom didn't send a towel with them because they didn't know the kids were going to get wet, it happens. And you just clean them up. Say, next time you come, hey, bring a towel with you if we're planning to swim. You know, and having have a stash, because that makes them feel comfortable. Not like, I have to walk home a dripping wet mess because I didn't know to bring my own towel.
Right.
But if you've got a junk towel that you don't care if you never see again, it's fine.
When we were growing up, there was a lady in the South with an in-ground pool, and she was in our church, and she was so kind, but she very much did what you're talking about, where she looked at her schedule and looked at how her life operated, and she extended an invitation to the people in the church, especially with children, of the days. I don't remember if it was just one day a week or if there were a couple of days a week that you could choose from, but it seems like it was on Wednesday. And then she would write down the people. Not everybody came at once, but you know, pick a Wednesday. And oh my goodness, my sisters and I were just so ecstatic, looking forward to our Wednesday.
Exactly.
To go to her in-ground pool with the diving board and swim. And she always had cookies and lemonade. Usually, I remember Oreos. Maybe she changed it up, but But it was very clear. It was very kind, but it was all very clear. We all brought our own towels and snacks, or if we wanted something besides cookies and lemonade, we all brought our own things. And then just inside the house was the bathroom we could change if we needed to. But otherwise, we all stayed outside and we had a couple of hours. And it was very pleasant for her and for us.
Right.
Because we knew just exactly what we were going to do and
exactly
what day and all of that. And knew that we had cookies and lemonade to look forward to. She told us that as well.
Yes. Well, see, and just that little bit of pre-planning made her life easier, made your life easier and easier on your parents. And they knew they weren't pressing their advantages and things like that. So I think that's helpful.
If you do have a pool, I don't know right now because I don't have an in-ground pool, but I think those that do, maybe sometimes it does feel like people might always be asking, or, hey, would it be okay if I brought my kids over to swim today? Would you mind? And so having just a real clear idea in your mind of what your schedule looks like you said, it helped her to be able to be ready for hospitality, worked with her schedule, but then it also kind of gave clear set time and day for people to be able to say, hey, can I come on that Wednesday or whatever? So great ideas.
Yeah, works pretty well. Of course, if you have kids coming into your house, there is the issue of the bathroom. So it's a good idea to think through which bathroom do you want guests to use and stock it for them. You know, I mean, we ladies like those little hallway half baths, and they always look so nice with our fresh towels and our pretty soaps. And, you know, we need dark hand towels.
Yes.
for the
Don't
for the
put
kids.
Out your white towels.
No white towels necessary, and we need antibacterial soap. Kill germs, not neighbors. You know, so exactly. You know, and you're going to need to clean up the toilet after the day is over, because you're going to have to hit it with Lysol wipes and keep things clean, because not everybody's a sure shot, you know.
Right.
So, or you've got littles that you're dealing with, or olders, whatever. But you're going to need to make sure you clean before and clean after. But if you have kids of the right age, it's good to loop them in and say, we're going to be hospitable. We're going to welcome these people. So I need you to help welcome your friends too. And this is one thing you can do. You can swipe out the sink after everybody goes. You can pick up the dirty towels in the bathroom and take them to the laundry room for me. You can replace the toilet paper roll, whatever it is, or you can clean up the counter, this area of the counter. So lots of different things that your young ones can learn. Hospitality is fun, but there is a responsibility.
And there's work that goes into it, and they're helping with that work and taking ownership for seeing what needs to be done and seeing how to serve others.
And I think teaching kids to see a problem and know that they can fix it is so important. So important. And having them go into the bathroom and saying, what's wrong with this picture? So, well, there's towels on the floor. What can you do about that? You know, there's no toilet paper. What can you do about that? You know, looking at the kitchen, there's a stack of drink cups. Are these washable or non-washable? Oh, they're non-washable. So what do you need to do? Toss them, you know, help out. But being able to look at a picture or look at a situation and say, I see what I can do, I will do it, is a valuable skill. And I think in preparing and cleaning up from hospitality, that's a good training moment for our own kids too.
For sure. No, I completely agree. I think that's setting them up for success as adults in their own hospitality, in their own homes. It's just really great training.
Yeah. The other thing to help limit access to your house, a couple ideas that I was thinking about was if you could take a big drinks container, like a 10-gallon drinks container, throw some ice in it. I have an ice maker, and it just can't keep up with us in the summers. So I've started taking like my sour cream containers and putting water in those and freezing them and making ice blocks.
Genius.
And it's water.
I lived
melts
in
into
the South and never thought of that.
I have been doing that because the ice block or an ice ring, you know, you you can make really fun ice rings and
with your bundt cake
pan, etc. We do it for punch all the time at certain parties and showers, etc. But it's the same concept, a couple of ice blocks, and then you're not killing your ice maker. But if you were to set up a 10-gallon drinks container with paper cups and a garbage can outside, when somebody's thirsty, there's the drinks container. And at the end of the day, you water the garden or your plants or whatever, so you can always do that. That helps limit some access to the house or to the refrigerator, opening the fridge all the time or opening the freezer to get ice, etc. So there's that.
Let's take a quick break. Are you searching for hands-on activities to help your kids explore the practical side of science? Look no further than your kitchen. Inquisicook blends food science and culinary arts into an engaging program that puts delicious food on the family table. Let Inquisicook do the teaching with lesson videos, reliable recipes, and assessment tools that put students on track for success. Their online platform is easy to navigate and optimized for mobile, so the learning experience can move from the classroom to the kitchen without a hitch. Inquisicook turns curious students into intuitive cooks, not just recipe followers. Say goodbye to the tyranny of the ingredients list and say hello to utilizing what's in season, what's on sale, or what's in the fridge. Visit Inquisicook.com to view sample lessons, then check out the recipe gallery to see just how crave-worthy science can be.
I was also thinking an outdoor hand washing station would be great. I know a lot of people who camp set up some form of hand washing station. And of course, hand sanitizer is a wonderful thing. Lysol wipes could do the same thing. So if kids get messy, muddy, dirty, you're about to serve snacks, wash those hands. Training them to do it outside instead of tracking into the house, that can help kind of limit it. And if they learn that there's a hand washing station, they just use it.
Yes.
And the same is true with the drinks. If they know that there's the big drink container ready to go, that's where they go first.
Idea. And in summertime, sometimes you're serving popsicles in the yard.
Right.
And so you definitely need something like that to wash up afterwards as well. You do not want 10 sticky kids walking in the house and accidentally touching everything on their way to the bathroom. And it's just...
And if they do, we chase it down with a Lysol wipe or a cleaning rag. But we also need to look at ways that we can
easy on yourself.
Make it easy for us, because if it's easy for us to be hospitable, we're going to be more hospitable. And so just kind of thinking through some of those things. If you've got an outdoor table, you can make great use of that for serving snacks or doing crafts or anything like that.
Yeah,
that's
and
always
you can
great.
Even spread out a big giant piece of like craft paper.
Oh, that would be so
table
fun.
If you wanted to do painting or drawing or, I don't know, even other things where you just wanted to protect your table. You could, that
Absolutely.
is a great idea. We've done that before with painting flower pots. That was a fun project we did one time. My daughter and my niece, that we got flower pots and some paint and just went after it.
Well, freezer paper is great to use, and you can get that. Choose the brown grocery bags, tear them apart, tape them down.
Yeah, that's a free option.
Free options and stuff like that, and set up a coloring station on the outdoor table. There's all kinds of things that you can do to make kids feel welcome and still have lots to do. But also around your neighborhood, as we take walks and walk with our kids or walk our pets, there are lots of things that we can do. Especially when you've got littles and you live near a park, you get used to going to parks. So a good idea might be to take a thermos of iced tea, a couple extra cups. If you meet some moms, you can always offer them a glass iced tea, get to know them, especially if your kids are all at the same park. We're swinging on the same swings at the park, and you can reach out and be hospitable at the park.
Yes.
And help to get to know people and their story and become park friends.
Yes,
there you go.
Park friends.
Exactly. Park friends.
That's a fabulous idea. I wasn't here. I had not moved here yet, but at some point there were park days. Well, they still have park days, but this specific summer that I'm remembering, I heard stories of some of the moms getting together a meal, and they would share the meal with whoever, with each other. Obviously their families would eat, their children would eat, but they would have extra so that anyone at the park was invited as well, which was, I think one person, or maybe more than one, was just so intrigued by, how are you offering me food, and why are you doing this, and why would you offer a total stranger a meal?
Exactly.
And it was instantly an opportunity to tell them why and what their thought process was behind it.
Yeah. And park days are a great time to do that. And even just your own informal, okay, it's a nice day, the rain has stopped, let's go to the park. Quick. Or it's not hot yet, let's go to the park. But plan for doing some of those things as well. The other thing we've got here in Moscow, and I know it's probably getting bigger in other areas, are these little library boxes in our neighborhoods. You see them, and they're decorated. They're so cute. I'm not sure, what the origin story is on those, but it's good to keep an eye on those and check them out every once in a while, see what's in there. If you clean off your shelves, think about putting some good quality books in there, especially for kids. As your kids outgrow Amelia Bedelia, and it's still a good book, you may not want to get rid of it. Try stuffing it in the library box and see who picks it up. You never know. But you can also, I've removed a few things too that I thought, okay,
this is total garbage.
Nobody around here needs to read this.
No child needs to see this.
Yeah, then there's that. So putting duplicate books in, or if you find some good cheap books. And some people really enjoy doing that kind of monitoring and some people don't. But if you think about it, it's a way to
be a part of your neighborhood.
And keep an eye on things. I know the boxes were pretty popular during COVID because kids were, we're all out of our regular habits of going to the library or being in school and everything. And then the library boxes were like, wow, well, let's see if there's a book in there that I've never read. So just keep an eye on them.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. We never had those in my neighborhood, but it was because I think they weren't in fashion, or maybe not quite as popular as they are now, but I do see them here all over town. So that's a great idea for neighborhood kids. They could go to the library, but those have to be returned. The library boxes, it's nice because there's no pressure to return it. You can keep it and read it. If it gets lost or damaged, the parents aren't worried about having to replace it or pay for it at the library.
Right.
Back to having children in your home, I know there's definitely parameters of when they can come in and when they can't. When you do allow kids to come in, what are your ground rules for having them inside if they want to, if they're there around mealtime, or if they want to turn on the TV, or things like, or your children, well, I know that your children are grown now, but let's say your grandchildren, it's their nap time. So what do you do as far as inside time?
For inside time, especially when our kids were younger, we just said, I'm sorry, we don't watch TV unless Daddy's home. That's something we do of an evening, maybe as a family movie. And we did have some TV series we really liked to follow. When we lived in Monterey, in the closure of Fort Ord and the transfer of housing to Monterey Naval Base, the cable company went out of business and they forgot to cut out all the cable on the base. So most of our houses got courtesy cable for 6 months.
Because they hadn't realized we haven't turned it off.
Well, and there was nobody to call to turn it off. The cable company
office
was out of business.
Oh, how funny.
And we were still getting cable. So we got courtesy cable. Yeah. And so we did allow our kids to, and not every family in the neighborhood got courtesy cable. So we did have some friends who were in-house friends, and especially when we found out like a special movie was on that was good, like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was going to be on one night or one afternoon, and we had the friends come in and we could all have snacks together and watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang because they didn't have cable and we had courtesy cable.
And
so,
speaking of cheap snack, popcorn.
Popcorn
For everyone.
Popcorn for everybody. We always tried to set that up. We rarely allowed kids to just turn on the TV
and see what's on.
Of course, our kids were really young back in the courtesy cable day. And then, and the same is true with movies. And you really find out different friends have different standards on movies and TV. So we tried to keep a tight restriction with the kids on what they watched. But we always tried to make sure there were games they could play. We always had Play-Doh. They could color. There were things to do that weren't TV. And of course, my kids were really young, and we only had one desktop computer in the house, and Daddy's master's thesis was on it. So we that was not a game computer.
Yes.
Unless you were sitting on Daddy's lap and he was playing with you. Caleb, we had this great Lego chess program that he loved. And so as a little kid, but he only got to play it when Daddy was home to monitor everything. And I realized technology is so different. Kids have a phone in their pocket from young ages, and they are really monitoring in that. So that might even be something you have to address even in your home, is like, hey, when you come in, how about you leave your phone in this basket, because we don't want you to lose it. And that way you'll know where it is when it's time for you to go home. And if you need to check it, like we hear it go off and your mom might be calling you or something, we'll let you know, and you should check it once in a while to see. But otherwise, why don't you just leave it in this safe spot with your shoes or whatever, your backpack, and a special space for visitors' phones, and that way the kids aren't on their phones all the time. So that might be something to think about.
I think it is so important for parents to recognize the different standards, even from people that they go to church with.
Exactly.
There's going to be a wide variety of music standards. There's going to be parents who have set up very good parental controls on their phone and are very active in monitoring their children, talking to them about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and how to keep yourself from, wandering down a path you're not supposed to. And then there's going to be parents who are clueless or just don't see it as important. And so I think that's a very good idea to not allow cell phones to just
and that's something, you and your husband need to decide. Are we going to let kids bring in their cell phones and show our kids stuff, or should we collect them at the door, and then to go over with your children? So if your friend has a cell phone and wants to show you this video on YouTube, sometimes it's not the video on YouTube that's a problem. It's the commercials that break in and the ads that break in. So teaching your kids responsible habits of when may I watch videos with my friend, or when can we take a video of ourselves being silly?
Yes. What are the house rules?
What are the house rules about that? So that's another family council event.
Well, it's similar to the news back in my day. I know news is so different now, but way back when, I guess I was still an adult. I guess back in my kids' day when they were children, it was very common to have channels 3, 6, and 12, and my in-laws would turn on the news every night. And great people, wonderful people. But I realized with my young children in the room, if they were staying over there, spending the night, something like that, we quickly had to put ground rules down where it's great if they want to watch the news every night. They're adults. You must go back to your bedroom and play or read or something else, because it wasn't the weather that they were hearing. the news,
Right.
If you ever watch the nightly news, the first 15 minutes, they try to shock you with the most abhorrent things that have happened in the nearby neighborhood.
Right.
And they just describe it all in detail. There's nothing encouraging or positive. It's just all of the worst crimes. And my young children are sitting there with big eyes and asking me, what does this word mean? And so anyway, just thinking through house rules.
Right.
And realizing their age. There's a time for describing things and telling them about things or letting them hear the news or understanding what the current politics are.
Right.
And then there's a time for saying, that's not for you right now.
Exactly.
You let Nana and Papa watch that and you go do something else.
Yes.
Or videos or movies. There were people we went to church with that did not have restrictions on their kids' music, kids' phones, movies, and our children very much knew that if they ever went over to that home that they were not allowed to do any of that. You can play outside, but you may not watch a movie. We
also asked our kids if they were at a friend's house and somebody was going to watch a movie. The standard policy was, I need to call my mom.
Yep.
Or my dad.
Get permission.
And we always let our kids know too that if they needed us to, we would say no. Say, Mom, did you want me to do this? And I could say, do you want to do this? And they're like, no, you may not watch this. It's time to come home.
It is such a relief.
And then the kids can say, well, my mom said,
yep,
I can't do it. It's time to come home.
Or my dad said, a relief to kids to have that backup.
Let's be their big shoulders, and help protect them and help them have a safe outlet to not complain about it, but to say, well, my mom said it's time for me to come on home. Yep. So I'm not going to have time to watch that movie. And
you can hear the sigh of relief in your children's voice because you've backed them up.
Right.
You've protected them. You've given them an out. That is so valuable. It really is. And sometimes parents feel like, oh, I don't want to be mean or the bad guy or something like that. We've always told our kids, I'm especially thinking of teenagers.
Right.
You can make me the bad guy anytime.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Right.
I will take the fall.
Yep.
Because it doesn't affect me like it would, it's hard when you're talking to a friend your age or whatever, about let's just say the movie, for example, well, I don't think I want to watch that movie.
Right.
Well, my mom and dad said that's a little bit easier.
It is a little helpful.
If they need you to take that fall.
And they'll grow into learning how to take their own responsibility. But there is sometimes in some situations where knowing that your parent has your back and you can rely on them is a good thing as you are learning to stand up for yourself.
Well, and sometimes when they're younger, they don't even know what it is they need. And a parent can look and say, let's say you can just tell your child is exhausted. They're tired. Yes. They're ready for the company to leave. They really need just to have a hot bath and go to bed.
Right.
And they wouldn't choose that. But you as a parent can say, it's time.
Yes.
It's time. It's time for everybody to pack up. We loved seeing y'all and we will see you another time.
Right.
And just give your child those boundaries that they need. So what about when children show up at mealtime?
I do not object to feeding kids who show up at mealtime as long as it's okay with their folks. If we are in a situation where, hey, it's getting really close to dinner and your mom hasn't been able to pick you up yet, so let's just call mom and make sure it's okay for you to stay and let her know what we're having. So many kids have so many allergies issues. I'd be almost scared to feed somebody something unless I cleared it with their folks to make sure it was okay. My kids were never allergic to anything. They could eat anything. So that wasn't a problem. But if you have friends with special needs or special dietary issues, that could be a challenge. Or are Jewish, that's another challenge.
Right. Well, like you say, if you have set times, then and you plan those times are really just snacking times, and that makes it a little bit easier.
Right. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's happened before where kids have come over to play and things have gotten a little later than parents realized. We're getting ready to eat. Sure, sit down. Let me call your mom and make sure this is okay. And sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's not.
Right.
Just be flexible.
So you typically have a bin with snacks. Do you have a bin with disposable products as well? Or do you let everybody
I think
eat
that's
on
a great idea.
grill plates and things?
I like plastic plates too. You can get those pretty cheap at Walmart or the dollar store, and then you can wash them and reuse them if you want to. But, with 4 kids in the house and now 7 grandkids, you always have these birthday napkins or holiday napkins left over. Just throw those in a bin, and when it's time you need napkins, you've got a bin full of napkins, and you can put hand sanitizer, some small plates, some spoons, if you need to, or straws, cups, just another Rubbermaid bin that's labeled. And if it's got a lid on it, it can sit anywhere, even outside on your porch.
Yes.
It'd be safe. It's near your hand washing station or your drink station. So it's ready to go, and you just have to kind of clean it up and patrol it. But if you got 2 extra Spider-Man napkins, throw them in.
Exactly.
Somebody will enjoy a Spider-Man
Somebody
napkin.
will need that after eating their popsicle.
Exactly.
Those are great
Popsicle
ideas.
cleanup.
Emergency in the backyard.
Exactly.
Water hose needed.
Oh, there are some stories. Yes.
Oh, there are some stories. Well, along with this episode, we will share a few recipes. She has been kind enough to show me a recipe for quick and easy snack bags that she makes. One is Fruit Loops Trail Mix, which looks delicious.
Oh, that was such a fun website too. And I don't know anything about the website, but it had 10 different types of snack bags you could make that are kind of this trail mix. And I just picked the Fruit Loop one.
Is it from this
kidactivities.net? And like I said, I don't know anything about, I couldn't find out anything about who's behind it or the sponsor on it.
Just some great activities and recipes for kids.
Yeah. And I thought, ooh, these all look yummy.
Well, another one is Animal Cracker Trail Mix.
So this I got out of Taste of Home years ago. I'm a big Taste of Home fan, and I was looking for something as an alternative to baking cookies for a bake sale, fundraisers. And I just mixed this all up, threw it all in a big bowl, mixed it all up, threw a cup of it in a Ziploc bag, and it was the hit of the party.
I'm looking at it. The kids would love this. And the thing about trail mix is you can always substitute things in and out.
Absolutely. Whatever you've got, you just throw in.
Whatever
this one's got Teddy Grahams and then animal crackers, because they are different size and different things. Mini pretzels, the M&Ms, raisins, yogurt covered raisins, healthy raisins, miniature marshmallows you could throw in, peanuts, yes or no, either one. Any little dried fruit would go well in that. If you don't have animal crackers, leave them out.
Yes. Yes.
Whatever you got, throw it all in and call it
a
snack mix. And it's just kind of fun.
Yes. And you also have here a basic bubble solution with glycerin or without glycerin, 2 different recipes.
Yes. Now, back in the day when I was making bubbles, we could get glycerin at the drugstore. So I'm guessing that's probably true.
What does glycerin do?
It provides color and sheen. It makes the bubbles look iridescent,
maybe glossy,
and kind of glossy. I haven't tried it with the sugar. My brother and his clan are on vacation now, and they were going to try this recipe with the sugar, and they promised to get back to me, but I haven't heard to see how it works with sugar in it. But supposedly the sugar makes the bubbles stronger, and they actually bounce off your hand.
That would be fun.
I mean, that's what the YouTube video showed, right? So I was waiting to see, but they hadn't. I don't know that they've done them yet. So
that's so much fun.
And
you can put this in your bubble machine, I guess.
I would guess so, yeah. So
much fun.
I know.
I can't wait to try this recipe.
I mean, you can make your own bubbles, and you can do them up really quickly. the other thing I like to do is when the bubbles go on sale for 70% off at the different stores at the end of the season. Last year I bought 3 gallons of bubbles.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
ready. I am ready for bubbles.
Well, at the end of the summer, you could easily go and stock up.
Exactly.
And then making them homemade, the ingredients are so cheap. It's water, dish soap, glycerin or corn syrup, and sugar for one recipe. And the other is just water, sugar, and dish soap.
Yeah.
And we all have that on hand.
Exactly.
You can make it instantly and very cheaply.
Mm-hmm. And just have lots of fun.
Yes, have lots of fun. Do you also stock, like if children ever come up with an injury, do you have in your guest bathroom, what do you stock besides towels and toilet paper? Do you have Band-Aids?
Band-Aids, Neosporin, hydrogen peroxide. Hardly anybody's ever going to be allergic to any of those. And if they're injured more than that, you need to call the parents anyway. But if somebody skins a knee, gets a scrape or a little splinter that you can get out, soap and water, Neosporin and a Band-Aid, little hydrogen peroxide if necessary. And that'll solve a lot of ills until they can get home. And I wouldn't recommend offering any child medication.
Right.
I mean,
like ibuprofen or Tylenol or anything like that.
I wouldn't recommend that at all. But Band-Aids and Neosporin, that's fine.
Called you and told you to do it or something. And even then, it'd probably be better just to send them home and let the mom and dad do that.
For the grandkids, unless their parents authorize it.
Well, and even at school, the school where we work, you have not only do you have to look at the authorization form, there's a parent's signature on there.
Right.
So it may be better just to send them home and let mom and dad administer something.
Exactly. And then let them come back.
Yeah.
You know,
if it's needed that desperately for pain or whatever. And I guess in reverse, if your children, we're talking really about being hospitable with our own time, home, food, that sort of thing. But in reverse, for parents who are thinking in the neighborhood, well, my children want to go to someone's home.
Right.
Obviously teaching what the ground rules are, whether that's an inside friend, somebody from church and you're really close with, or if you stay outside. Do you have any other recommendations about that if someone's children are wanting to go away from your home?
And I realize kids like to see what's happening at other people's houses, etc. Even our grandkids, sometimes they come over to our house, but they like to play outside at my son and daughter next door because they've got a trampoline and
looks
a
way
big
more fun over
swing,
there.
And they've got this climbing board. And Josh was a lacrosse player for years. He's got a pitchback, and oh wow, it's the yard, and they've got lots of trees with lots of shade, and we've got wide open air. Ours is the yard they like to sled in because we got this hill in the backyard. So ours is the sledding location and the slip and slide location. And we've got the big driveway and they can chalk it up all they want kind of thing. But they do like going other places sometimes. But I think it is good if you've got kids to try to invest in your home, invest in your yard to make your house the place kids want to hang out, because then who they're hanging out with. When we were in Monterey, California, we bought a 12-passenger van for our 6 people. Of course, being military, we drove around a lot and we did visit with family, and it was nice having that extra space. But it was also very nice to be able to say, we'll drive, because then we know what music is being played, what conversations are happening, who's sitting with who's being nice, who's not, trying to diffuse situations. We get to know their friends a little better. And I remember even school trips up here, the kids coming home and saying, will you please drive? Would you please drive and drive the van? And would you please drive so that I want to go in our car, that kind of a thing. And so that was just really nice.
Yes.
And so it was nice to have that big passenger van to be able to be the parent that always volunteers to drive, always knows what's going on.
Yes.
And
I
the same
highly
is true.
recommend being that parent.
Yes. And same's true with the backyard, having the yard people do want to play in, because then you know who your kids are playing with. You can monitor that situation, run interference as necessary, teach life lessons as they come up, and just lots of people and issues to pray about as family too.
Yes. Well, you see the issues, you see the or hear the conversations, and like you say, there's a lot that instantly or that night at dinner you can discuss with your children and help them to grow or know how to handle a situation better, or the better thing to say the next time they're irritated, or whatever it is.
Right.
You just are very active parents in their lives.
Exactly.
Well, great tips. Thank you so much for sharing all of your ideas.
Great fun. Great fun.
For summertime hospitality in the backyard.
Yes. Thanks so much.
Until next time. Bye for now.